Hello, all you beautiful people out there. Today, we are going to be making the official best NHL players in the NHL. And this has been a video that I've been longing to make. A lot of you guys have been asking me, Grav, when are you making the best NHL player tier list? And to that I say the time is now. I mean, I got my Santa hat, I got my Beats, and I got my Hawaiian shirt on. And I feel like there's no other time, since I am rocking the best fashion sense of 2020, we might as well bring it out today. And this is a model that I've been working on for a very long time, a few years now, to craft the perfect model for the best NHL players. And I think you will see during this video and during this tier list specifically just what I mean. This has been something that I've been putting a lot of thought into as well. So you could debate in the comments all you like, but this is definitely the perfect algorithm, let's say, and the perfect criteria to making the perfect NHL player tier list. Now you'll see the tiers we are rocking here: S, A, B, C, and F, and this is just kind of a default way to assign these players. And we're just going to start out today with the best players in the NHL, and we're going to start out today with big old man Alex Ovechkin. Now you can see he's rocking that big old beanie and looking like a big old rapper out there. And you know, I like to assign a lot of good points to that. I think that definitely speaks to his swag level, which is definitely counted into these rankings quite a bit. But if we take a look at his stats here, let's look up Alex Ovechkin on the good old hockey reference and see where he lies. Ooh, yeah, minus 12. You can see right there, that's not what we want. That's not what we want in a hockey player. When you have a minus 12, you're a huge liability to your team. You're also a terrible hockey player. And when you're just to be minus 12, sure, you have the goal scoring. He does have the 48 goals with him. But when you have the minus 12, I mean, let's be real here. This is you're kind of seeing how this model is working. The plus minus is the most important stat in the National Hockey League's history. Not even just in sports in general. And you can see that minus 12. That's just not where we want it. So it's not the worst. Don't get me wrong, it's not the worst in the world, but I think we will have to put Alex Ovechkin in the C for right now. For right now, that's how it's working with. But yeah, just not that great. Not that great. Could definitely be better. And if he brings that plus minus up, he could definitely be an S tier pretty soon. But now we're going to go on to his Swedish teammate in Nicholas Backstrom. Nicholas T. Backstrom. Never mind, you can see the T right there. Big old rapper Nicholas Backstrom with his big old rapper Alex Ovechkin. And let's just look at where he lies in the plus minus rankings. And when we look at minus one, not even an even plus minus one there. Not the worst, definitely close to average at that point, but definitely not what you'd like to see in your number one center. I mean, would you really want your number one center to be a minus? Even though it's only a minus one, that's not what we want. That's not what we want at all. So both capitals not looking that great. To be honest, I mean, honestly, I'll put Backstrom in the C tier, and I'm going to move Ovechkin down to the F tier, though he might be one of the worst if not for that beanie. That beanie, it definitely has I would say about 123 swag level on that one, which is pretty elite, I must say. So we're now going to go on to good old slap me silly Cindy here, and you know, he's got his new team. He just signed with Hulu has live sports, and I don't know, I feel like that's going to bring down his overall plus minus. But let's look and see how it was with the Pittsburgh Penguins this past year and if it stacks up at all. So, yikes, minus 8. Would you look at that? Minus 8. You know, when you are on the ice for a minus 8 with your team, I mean, that you're bringing your team way down. And that's even worse than Nicholas Backstrom. Nicholas Backstrom at least is close to an even. And you can see Sidney Crosby with that, once again, that minus 8, just not doing it for me. 47 points. The algorithm doesn't really care about that. That minus 8 definitely brings him down. So I think he's probably along Alex Ovechkin tier. Not as bad as Alex Ovechkin, let's be real here. But is he really a good NHL player? And to this I say no. I say no. I mean, he has a minus 8. That's just not where you want it. And let's be real here, especially if Evgeni Malkin can't bring that plus minus up. He's not even on the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's on Hulu Has Live Sports. And to be honest, their big old free agent acquisition, Sidney Crosby, not looking too great. Not looking too great in that F tier. So we're now going to go on to Patrice Bergeron. He has a really good flow, looking just like Nicholas Backstrom in the back there. And you can see him in his good old AHL days. But where does his plus minus stack up? Of course, we all know him as the fantastic defensive player, but is he truly worthy of that criteria? And actually, he stacks up pretty good, plus 23, as you can see there. Not too bad. Not too bad. Definitely looking close to an S tier, but I'm going to put him in the A tier for right now. I think there might be some better options available in this list as we go on. We will see, but Patrice Bergeron definitely puts himself in a good position with that top 23. So as far as I'm concerned, that reputation of him being an elite defensive player, I mean, you can just look at the plus minus and get a great idea of that. Definitely stacks up. Definitely stacks up. Plus 201 in his career as well. So in my books, he's definitely an A plus in that category. You can't really go wrong, and just in general, definitely one of the better players in the NHL. But we can now go on to a little bit of a winger here in Johnny Gaudreau, and of course a little bit of down year this last year, but his plus minus might be able to redeem him. Of course, he ended up getting like 98 points, or something in 2019, but I don't think that really matters compared to what the plus minus might look like. So we'll see. Minus 10. Minus 10. I mean, when we look at some of the best wingers in the NHL, people might be right. People might be right that Johnny Gaudreau is now bad. I mean, when you look at that plus 10, that just does not stack up. That just does not stack up. It's not Alex Ovechkin bad. And don't get me wrong. If Johnny Gaudreau is Alex Ovechkin bad, then we might have a problem in Calgary. But it's not good either. And when you look at the best players in the NHL, I just don't think how he stacks up. Is he Alex Ovechkin bad? No, but definitely worse than Sidney Crosby, and definitely in that F tier. Definitely one of the worst players in the NHL. But now we can go to a big rockin' Jack Eichel here. You can see him. This is actually a current day photo of Jack Eichel in 2020. Not sure what he's going with that overall just everything, but we'll see how his plus minus stacks up. Maybe that's able to redeem his fashion sense, which, let's be honest, that his swag level's probably about a minus 10 at this point. Not looking too good. Oh, okay, so he ends up being a 5. He ends up being a 5, which is not the best in the world, but we are making progress here. Not Patrice Bergeron by any means, but I think Jack Eichel stacks up pretty decently. The problem is, I think we'll see some players with some better plus minus later on that will have a little bit more impressive showings. Definitely not an S tier, definitely not an A tier, and I would argue at that plus 5, probably not a B tier either. I mean, you're still pretty close to average in the NHL, and even though he is an above average player, is he really that much better than above average? Like, I don't know. I don't think so. I think he's worse than better than Nicholas Backstrom, of course. Nicholas Backstrom with that -1, forgive me, but I don't think he has enough yet to stack up to the B tier. If he rises that plus minus, we might get somewhere though. So he's on the right track. He's on the right track, though still definitely a lot more of an average player. But then we got hockey butt over here, Dylan Larkin, and you know, his hockey butt, let's be real here, definitely stacks up among the top tier of the NHL. In terms of thick per 60, I think he's definitely top 5 in the National Hockey League, but does his plus minus stack up in that way? We will see. I mean, the hockey butt might lead him to a pretty good spot here, and he ends up with a -21. He ends up on a -21, the worst. You know, he does have a pretty good hockey butt, though. He does have a pretty good hockey butt, and you can't see it, but he does say he has a pretty good hockey butt. So I don't think he's the worst player in the world swag-wise. Swag-wise, he's probably like a plus 250, but with that -20, what was it? -21. I mean, let's look at his career, -53. Those numbers are not going to do you well. Those numbers are not going to do you well. So in my opinion, it might just be me, but I think Dylan Larkin might be one of the worst players on the Red Wings. At that point, when you have the plus minus that he does, you can't really excuse that kind of numbers. It's kind of unforgivable. And if I was Steve Yzerman, I think moving on from him would be the right way to go. You can never, sometimes you can't tell with young players, but when you have a plus minus that bad on such a great team like the Detroit Red Wings, it's hard to ignore. It really is. And I'm pretty disappointed in the hockey butt right now. But then we got taxi cab abuser, Patrick Kane here. And with Patrick Kane, I'm not really sure where his plus minus will end up, because he has been labeled as a terrible defensive player. But we'll see how he comes up here. I mean, if he's able to be better than Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin, two guys that are just trash in the NHL, then I think that would be pretty good for the Chicago Blackhawks moving forward. But let's get a little bit of an idea here of what the Blackhawks are working with. And they have a plus. He has a plus 8. He has a plus 8. That's not too bad. I mean, it's not among the best in the NHL, but you can definitely work with that. You can definitely work with it. He is pretty sad here, but with his plus minus, I honestly would not be too sad. I would honestly not be too sad, because that you can definitely work with that. Is it Patrice Bergeron level? No, but he definitely is proving himself as one of the best defensive wingers in the league, and to that I think you definitely have to give him kudos. So I will give him a just slight B tier here, and then we can get on to Chewbacca here, and he plays for the San Jose Sharks, and he's all right. Bad defensively, but definitely on the offensive side has done pretty well for himself, winning that Norris Trophy. But does Chewbacca really do anything compared to some of these other players? I mean, you already have Patrice Bergeron and Patrick Kane, who combined with their plus minus and their swag levels are doing pretty well, but Chewbacca does look to have some pretty good swag. I would say about a 78 plus on that one, which lends himself pretty well to the conversation. But where does his plus minus lie here? Because Chewbacca definitely has the chance to get pretty high, but we'll see here. We'll see. Minus 22. Minus 22. That's worse than Dylan Larkin. You know, he does have the swag to him, but Dylan Larkin had 250 plus swag. Sometimes when you have the plus minus that down, you just have to make a judgment call. And Chewbacca, I'm sorry, it's just he was great in Star Wars, is good in the NHL, and I still think has potential for the San Jose Sharks. But I don't know, maybe it's just the time that he goes to forward. He's got to get that plus minus up, or else he could wind up being one of the worst players in National Hockey League history. So not the greatest career thus far for Chewbacca. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, at this rate, he probably should have stuck to Star Wars and stuck to acting. But now we can go on to Taylor Hall here. And Taylor Hall, I think, you know, I'm not sure, because obviously he was with the Arizona Coyotes, now of the Buffalo Sabres. But Taylor Hall, as you can see with the New Jersey Devils here in this screenshot, was pretty good in New Jersey. But this year with Arizona and New Jersey, we will see, in fact, where he has trended. And he ends up with a minus 14. Minus 14 on that one. That's not good. That's not good. And overall in his career of minus 42, I mean, his hair is pretty good, so I would give it about a plus 8 on the swag level. But when you're minus 14, you're definitely worse than Alex Ovechkin, which is saying a lot, because Alex Ovechkin is really bad. You're not quite in the Dylan Larkin or Chewbacca area, but with Taylor Hall, honestly, I really don't see where his potential goes. I mean, for the Buffalo Sabres, he probably should have gotten like a league min contract. They give him $8 million for what, minus 14. But now we can go on to good old German boy Leon here, and for me, Leon, I mean, he definitely, as you can see in this screenshot, definitely is making a great career for himself as a stereotypical coffee loving hippie over here. But does his plus minus really look all too great? Of course, he just won the Hart Trophy, but was it deserved? Was it deserved? We'll see with the plus minus here. And oh my gosh, another bad one, a minus 7, minus 24 in his career. With those kind of numbers, I mean, I think we should all realize here that that's just not Hart Trophy worthy. That's just not Hart Trophy worthy. You shouldn't, I should say, win such an accolade like that with such a poor plus minus. It just doesn't make any sense. Definitely not above an F tier, in my opinion. Definitely not. You could maybe have an argument for C, but not quite yet. He won the Hart Trophy, but in my opinion, that plus minus is just too poor to make happen. So next up, we have this Tim Hortons employee. I'm not really sure why we have a Tim Hortons employee on this tier list, but we'll work with it either way, because who knows? Maybe he was in the NHL and maybe he's all right. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this plus minus ordeal fits in with this Tim Hortons. With this Tim Hortons player and employee here. And Okay, so Tim Hortons, 191 plus minus on that, plus 191, I should say, and you can see with the kind of hairdo he's got going on, really looking good in this ranking, so 191, honestly, I think we do have to put him in A tier. All right, so we're now going to move on to Mitch Marner here, and as you can see, Mitch Marner starring in Home Alone and Home Alone 2. We will not speak about Home Alone 3, but in Home Alone and Home Alone 2, he had a pretty prominent role. Was a pretty good actor through and through, and as you can see, is doing pretty well these days in the National Hockey League. But with Mitch Marner, obviously, he's with the Toronto Maple Leafs, easily the best team in the NHL, and with their last 10 cup wins over the last 10 years, I think we can all agree on that. But with Mitch Marner individually, we'll see how it goes for him. Obviously doing well in Home Alone, but doing pretty well in the NHL. +6. We can work with that. I think that solidly puts him in the C tier for now. But then we go on to Austin Matthews here. As you can see, I have time traveled and acquired a photo of him from 2026, and you can see he's doing pretty well here with the Arizona Coyotes. They have some weird uniforms because they moved to Houston in 2022. Not sure if some of you guys know that, but with Austin Matthews, we'll see, hyped as one of the best American players in NHL history, but does he stack up with Patrick Kane? We'll see here. With Austin Matthews, a +19. Interesting. So that puts Matthews in some pretty good competition. I mean, I think we can all agree better than Sidney Crosby, better than Jack Eichel, but is he better than Patrick Kane? And for this, I gotta say yes. Not as good as Patrice Bergeron. Patrice Bergeron is also a Bruin, and he's automatically better than Eddie Leaf because I'm a Bruins fan. But then we got let's see, a Harvard University student here, and I'm not really sure where he'll lie because Harvard hockey-wise has done all right. They obviously had Adam Fox, but this is kind of a weird one. I'm not really sure because this Harvard student, if you will, has been doing all right. I think I've heard of him, so we'll see how he does here in the plus-minus ranking, and for the year, -6. A -6. So the Harvard rookie not doing that well. Is he one of the worst players in the NHL? I don't think we can say that, but definitely I would say the worst player in the C tier thus far, for sure. He might be able to get better, but he'll have to get out of Harvard for that to happen. But overall, I mean, his swag level is probably at this rate, for my estimates, around a -1,278, maybe a 1,279, but I think that's pushing it a little bit too much. So I think we'll have him in the C tier. But then we can go on to a famous DJ here, Mika Zibanejad, and his music career has been popping off. It's been bopping, it's been jogging, it's been logging. It's been doing very well. It's been jumping out and really doing well in the Hizzy house. And with his DJ career, obviously we all know Mika Zibanejad and his famous music, but does he really compare as a hockey player to some of these other players we'll list today? And we'll see. We'll see. He is an elite rapper, but is he an elite player? And a +9. We can work with that. So I think honestly that puts him. I think that puts him in the B tier. Just barely, but I think we can definitely make an argument to have him in that B tier. But I think he's the lone guy in that B tier. But I think it works for him. Obviously, if it was just on the DJ alone, he'd be in the S tier because we all know Mika Zibanejad worked with amazing artists like. Jake Paul and Jacob Sartorius. There's some amazing artists out there, and also of course XXXTentacion. So with William Nylander, a -2. So what he lacks in hockey skill, he makes up for it in swag. But can we really put him high on this list because of that? And I don't know. Maybe one of the biggest debates you might have on a list like this, but to me, I put much more stock into +/-. To me, that is the most valuable stat in hockey. It's a stat that I think every department and every coach and every player should take to heart and always count on as the beneficiary of better play or worse play or whatever it might be. So for me, I'm going to have him in the C tier, just a little bit behind Nicholas Backstrom. Two swagalicious players, but just not what it takes in terms of hockey talent. And that's just a sad thing. Sometimes you have swag like William Nylander, and you just can't put it home. You just can't put the goals home, even though he had the most slot goals in the NHL this past season. Such a weak player, such a weak and slow and bad player. So yeah, I think C2 is pretty much perfect. But now we're gonna go on to this deranged raccoon over here, and I'm not really sure why we're listing animals into this tier list, but you know, we might as well bring the conversation into play here. So we'll see where this stray raccoon comes into the rankings here and how it comes in at a plus 36. A plus 36. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So the stray raccoon does pretty well in these rankings, and for that I think we have to put it S tier. I think we have to go with our first S tier today, because the raccoon, I mean, when we look at players like Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin, what do they really bring that the raccoon does not? And I think we have to think about that factor as well, the plus minus factor that people often forget. You know, the best down in the NHL, like I just said. But with the plus 36, I think that puts himself in a good conversation to be the best player in the NHL. Not quite there yet, because we do have some other players to talk about here, but that puts him in a good spot. That puts him in a good spot. Definitely S tier for right now. That plus 36 puts the raccoon mightily up on his opponents. So next up we have David Pastrnak. And you can see he's looking real good here, looking real fantastic, and you know, he's been losing some teeth real quick. He's been in some Dunkin' Donut commercials. I'm not sure why a plate of pasta would be in Dunkin' Donuts commercials, but you know, sometimes life can be weird, and you know, pasta being in the NHL is kind of weird too. So we'll see where the pasta, David Pastrnak, is in these rankings, and he's a plus 21. He's a plus 21. So I think so far we've learned that raccoon and pasta have been dominating the NHL. I wouldn't say quite that he is S tier, but that puts him solidly in the A tier. So next up we have a giraffe, and this is our second animal in the tier list rankings, and we will see where this giraffe comes in. And you know what, they don't have a lot of hockey in Africa, as far as I know, but some of the players that you see come from Africa are some of the best NHL players, like Wayne Gretzky. So you really have to factor that into what the giraffe might bring. And with Elias Pettersson, with the giraffe, you have plus 16. You have a plus 16 there. Not one of the best, but that definitely is good. I would put him ahead of Austin Matthews, because Austin Matthews played for the Leafs at one point, so you got to have every NHL player above him, because apparently Austin Matthews sucks because he plays for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But in this case, I think the giraffe definitely has a good spot on here. And if you can see here, maybe I put Austin Matthews ahead because I don't want the giraffe eating pasta. That would create a pretty bad situation, I would think, for the NHL, how an NHL player might die because another NHL player ate him. Not too far away from the Brad Marchand situation we saw earlier, but definitely worse, I would say. Definitely worse in the rankings. So with that, I honestly have to put Elias Pettersson in the B tier, just to make it so to where he can't eat the pasta and put pasta's life in danger. So I'll put him there. So next up we have a Finnish man holding some ketchup. His name is in fact Mikko Rantanen. I've gone over how he is overrated in the past, but we'll see how his plus minus has improved here throughout this last year. And if it has, maybe he might actually be good for once. And a -2. I mean, was I wrong? Was I wrong? I don't think I was. I don't think I was. I called him overrated. He has a -21 in his career and still a -2. Getting better, yes. I mean, we can see in his stats, -25 in 2017 was even, then +13, but went back down to -2. That's just not what you want to see. It's just not what you want to see from the young Finnish winger. And yeah, definitely not among the best in the NHL. It's not terrible, definitely not F tier, but I think with what we're looking at, definitely a C tier player, which is unfortunate. Definitely unfortunate, because he has a lot of potential. apparently is the best winger in the NHL, according to some. But to this tier list and to this obviously correct 100% completely official tier list, you have to have him in C. There's just no other way. So now we have Evgeni Shrek Malkin here to work with, and he, of course, the main star of the Shrek DreamWorks franchise, which has grossed over $3 billion on the box office. But does Evgeni Malkin gross as much money in the box office as he does in plus minus this year? And we'll take a look at that. Of course, Sidney Crosby ended up leaving him to the team Hulu has live sports, so maybe not the greatest sign, but he does have a +7. He does have a +7. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. That's a pretty decent amount to work with here. And you know what? I think he does go in the B tier. I think he does go in the B tier. Fantastic performances, especially in Shrek 3, which is easily the best Shrek franchise, mostly because the acting is terrible, the movie is terrible, the story is terrible, the animation is pretty bad by DreamWorks standards, and pretty much everything about the movie is terrible, so I love it. And personally, it's one of the best ways to go to sleep at night. I just put it on, and I instantly go to sleep. So for that performance, I think he definitely deserves to go in the B tier. I really can't see him in the C tier. Really can't see him in the C tier. So I think B is where he suits up there. Now we're going to go on to Chicago Blackhawks, Patrick Kane, Chicago Blackhawks teammate in Jonathan Toews. And Jonathan Toews, as you can see with the meme, Sidney Crosby is the best. That's cute. It is pretty cute. As you can see, Sidney Crosby is in the F tier, so definitely not the best NHL player, and far from it, probably one of the worst in the NHL. But with Jonathan Toews, does he have the bragging rights and the plus minus to truly contend for that top spot? And he, of course, has won Selke trophies, is considered one of the best defensive players of all time. But where does his plus minus give evidence to that? We'll see. So in his stats, a -2. Career-wise, 193. But, in this algorithm, we only talk about the last year. So I think overall, with that -2, you got to have him. You got to have him at this point still in this C tier. Not quite terrible, but I will also move John Tavares up. But yeah, just not where you want. Just not where you want. And he definitely is better than Sidney Crosby. Definitely better than Sidney Crosby, as you can see. But one of the best in the NHL. I think that's cute, Jonathan. I think that's cute. So we'll now go on to our last player here in today's tier list. And this is a player that has kind of burst onto the scene in terms of some of the best players in the NHL. And we'll see how he is able to perform over this last year and what he can provide. And that is Ryan Graves. And we'll see how his plus minus goes. And as you guys know, plus minus is the best set of all time. So if he's able to perform really well here, could make a case to be better than all of the players mentioned. So we are going to look up him on good old Hockey Reference and see where he goes. He's only played one season for the Colorado Avalanche, but we'll see how he stacks up. And he has a plus 40. A plus 40. I think that seals a deal. Yeah, I think we're pretty much. I think this debate is over. I think Artemi Panarin, I'm gonna have to put back in A tier. I think Ryan Graves, when you put up a plus minus like a 40, that's just, you can't forget about that. You can't neglect that. You can't forget just how important that is on a daily basis. I mean, thankfully the NHL account on Twitter did not forget it, because during the season there was about 5 posts about Ryan Graves leading in plus minus about every week. So it's good to see that the NHL is really taking awareness to this and really focusing in on that, because when we look at the rankings here, I mean, there's no other way to define it. There's no other way to truly get these rankings. I mean, these are definitive. These are set in stone, the best players in the NHL. And for me, at least, Ryan Graves definitely solidifies himself as some of the best. I mean, let's just look at his career, at his plus minus plus 40, in his career plus 44. He's only played 2 seasons in the NHL. He's only played 1 full season in the NHL. But as far as I'm concerned, he's probably the best defenseman in the NHL. And honestly, I think has the case to be the best player in the NHL. To me, there's really no other argument in terms of defenseman. So you guys know in my official defenseman NHL tier list where he will stack up against the rest. But in terms of some of the best players in the NHL, I think we can all agree on these rankings on where these guys land. So yeah, I think there you have it. You have Ryan Graves at number 1. And by the way, in the comments, you could comment your thoughts, but there really is no other way to rank these players. There is other ways to discuss those players. Obviously, you got points and you got assists and you got goals, but nothing really compares to the likes of plus minus. And I think you will see just how important and valuable it is in today's NHL, because you have some of the worst players like Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin being where they are, and some of the best players like Samuel Girard and Poster being right there, and also Tim Hortons employee being up there among the best in the NHL. So I think we can pretty much all agree on this tier list right here. And pretty much set in stone right now, because I've been seeing a lot of arguments and a lot of debates on the best players in the NHL. But I think if you have any debates like that, just send this exact tier list to your friend. Send it to anybody you know that is having an argument like that, because you could save them so much time just by spreading the word about this tier list and spreading the word about this video, because this is the definitive tier list. This is as good as it gets. And as I said before, I've been tweaking and working through this for I would say about since 2016 has been the starting point, and it's been a long road till now, but this has definitely turned out to be about as realistic and about as perfect as you can get. So thanks so much, you wonderful people, for watching today. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do so. Hit that like button as well. Of course, smash that subscribe button. Smash that bell button. And yeah, let me know in the comments your thoughts on this definitive perfect ranking. Again, there's no room for debate. So if I see you debating, I'm going to ban you instantly from the channel. And that's just kind of how it is. I mean, if you want to debate a perfect tier list, it's your funeral. You could go for it. But in terms of what we're seeing here, in terms of the swag level, in terms of the plus minus, it's turned into a pretty complete tier list. So thanks so much for watching. Again, share this video with your friends. There'll be a card somewhere up above. And yeah, more tier lists like this will be coming your way soon with this amazing algorithm and this amazing criteria. To really prove the best way to rank prospects and players. So yeah, some more videos coming like this soon. My name is Nathan, and hopefully you've been enjoying this video. And yeah, I'll be wearing this hula hula Hawaiian shirt for a little while with my Santa hat. Hopefully you have a good Christmas, y'all, and just bask in the greatness of this tier list. There's no better tier list out there, so you've been blessed. Thanks so much for coming by, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.